Good evening to you all. I had to remind myself tonight that it's TEDxYouth, so don't think me delusional, but I'm actually only 16 plus in the years, okay? But I have 40 years of experience beyond that. So I've been asked many times, why did I actually choose medicine as a career? And there are lots of reasons why. And one of the things probably was when I was young and I was 7 years old, I had asthma bronchitis. And I was taken to a doctor. I didn't really know who this person was. He was a very nice gentleman, and he in fact was a bit like a grandfather. Over the years ahead, he actually looked after me and cared for me and treated me, and by the age of about 14 or 15, the asthma pretty well resolved. And I had made up my mind to be a family doctor, a family physician, a general practitioner, at about the age of 14. Why? Well, partly because of that illness, and partly because I liked science and biology, and I also liked using my hands. So I went to a school, and I got prepared for university, and I applied to medical school, and then the unthinkable happened. The unthinkable happened even though I'm a very B-positive person. That's my blood group, by the way, but I've always said be positive. Many of you are B-positive too. If you are, hang on to your blood. So what happened, the unthinkable, when I applied, I had rejections all the way. I couldn't get into medical school. And at that stage, I was very stressed. When you've ever been on a plane like this and you can't get the elbow down, you're stressed. I was very stressed. But I was actually intent. I put my heart into my career, and I said, I'm going to get to university and I'm going to be a doctor. So actually I got into university and I applied for a bachelor's degree in zoology. And I chose a university which in fact had a medical school, and I said, no problem, I'll be able to change the year after. Very naive thought. There was no chance. And I didn't get in. My first year was fraught. So why? And I'm going to tell a slightly bad word. 2 words. Organic chemistry. And here was my first lesson. So in fact, I actually said to myself, memory is good, and I've got quite a good memory, but it's not enough. And I wasn't doing well my first year. And I went to my professor and I said, Professor, I'm not doing well, please help me. And he said, okay, and he went through and he helped me understand. Now let me give you a little test. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is? Times 2 is? Times 2 is? Times 2 is? Times 2? Yeah, you've got raw responses. Now, take this sum. Multiply 17,393 by 578 right now. Anyone give me an answer? No. If you did, I'd say simply, get a life. So for 5 years, I persisted. Actually, I found biochemistry very, very suitable. I liked it, I persisted, and then 5 years later, I was still applying. And I said to myself, is this common sense? What is common sense? It's a personal judgment. And the dictionary definition, well, that was jargon. It didn't mean anything to me. And I said, no, I'm going to go for it. And in fact, what happened was I applied, and once again, the familiar trend. Nobody gave me an offer, except the university that I actually was attending at the time. And then they said, you're doing a bachelor's degree, if you get this degree, we'll consider you. And in fact, I got that grade. I passed by the registrar's office, and in fact, knocked on the door very politely and said, I haven't got an appointment, but I have to know, please tell me, am I going to be admitted? And she said, come in, sit down, come in. And I sat down, she opened her drawer, she took out a file, she put it down in front of her, and I sort of peeped over, and I could see my name on it. So she had been expecting me. And I said, please don't keep me waiting. Are you going to consider me? And she said, yes. Are you going to take me? And she said, yes. Really? And in fact, she said, and when I calmed down, I was still sort of in a state. She said, we were always going to take you. That stopped me for a moment. She said, yes. I looked at her. She was compassionate. She said, we were always going to take you. But we wanted to see how determined you were. Can you imagine the feeling of a young student hearing those words? Yes, elation that I'd been admitted after all those times, after 5, because that was my last blast. If I didn't make it this year, I'd have to choose another career. But to actually say, we wanted to see how determined you were. I've never forgotten those words. And at one time when I left the office, I was both excited and angry. I said, it's not fair to make someone suffer like that. But this is all part of humility, growing up, maturing. And as I went through, I finished my degree, I did my first year residency, and then I had a series of jobs, and then it has a problem because there was no more job to go to. In Britain, you have to apply for jobs constantly, every 6 months or so. And there wasn't a job, and I wanted to stay in the area that I was living in, which was near Oxford. So what happened there was I found a job in cardiothoracic surgery. And I said, I'll never get it. I went to the boss, and he said, but you're going to be a family doctor. You're not going to be a surgeon. So why would you want to do this job? And I said, sir, I know I'm going to do family medicine, and that's going to be my career. But I want to do something now which I've never been able, will perhaps never be able to do again. I'm going to take my elective in medical training and do something which I enjoy, I hope. He said, it's a tough job. I said, yeah, no, but I've heard about it. I've done my homework. I've heard it from the others. And I'd really loved the opportunity. He was a great man. He listened to me, and he saw I genuinely wanted to. He said, well, I like you. Job's yours. And it was a bit more than that. What I didn't know was it was 24/7. And he kept that from me. But he worked 24/7 himself, so it was normal. And so what happened was, and he was a great guy, he was a great surgeon, he was one of the first people to put a biological valve into a human heart to make it function. Amazing. Some of the people that you come across in this world, in this life, you just don't know until you actually meet them. So in fact, that was great. And in fact, not only did I do 6 months, but I actually did another 6 months. Before the end of that contract, I went to him and said, you know, doctor, I don't think I know enough, and I'd like to go around again. So he said, okay. And that happened, and at the end of 12 months, I went back to him and said, I still don't know enough. He said, are you crazy? You know, the people normally can't wait to get out of this job. And you're doing 18 months. I still hold the record, actually. Nobody's done it longer than me, 18 months. And then with this concept, there's only 24 hours in the day, I thought. And I said to myself, 24 hours a day, what do you do in those 24 hours? Well, if you are studying or you're working, then that takes probably a third. And then another third is all the other things, you know, eating meals and going to bed and traveling to school and traveling to the shops and waiting at the airport and all that kind of stuff. And playing soccer and all the rest of it. And for the other third, you're unconscious because you're asleep. So if you live to 81, 27 years of your life is involved in play and wait and all the rest of it. 27 years is pure study or work. And for 27 years, a dividend in a way, I suppose, in a kind, you're unconscious. But you have to have that third to actually stay sane. So I said to myself, I need to have a plan here. And the plan, you need to know where you're going, not just to know what you're going to eat next week or what you're going to wear, but where you're going to go in your life. What do you want to do? And I really did feel that I wanted, this was a commitment, but I could not do it as a career because I wanted to live beyond 40, and I said, if I do this job, I'm going to be dead by that time. It was just too strenuous, and I wasn't really the surgeon type. So I had my time out, and I had a great time, and I had met a wonderful person. So here at this stage, we've already had 3 very important people in my life who've impacted me in my career. And in fact, what happened was when you actually look at how your life goes, you plan for something, and then it doesn't quite happen. So you actually going from A to B to C, and it linked back to failure and is a part of success. You don't actually go from A to B to C. You go from A to A plus to A2 and come back. And that's called experience. And experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Now, everyone says work hard. And working hard, of course, is very creditable. But I've learned over the years that working hard is one thing, but don't just work hard. Don't work so hard to the exclusion. It's cost me. I know my mistakes. And if I went back, I wouldn't do quite what I did again. But I'm here now, and I have to learn from my experience. And just before I leave the heart side of things, let me just give you a glimpse of my feelings. This is that same heart valve. I put a slide up because you can't see it otherwise. This was a valve that actually was on its way to somebody's heart. On the way from the tray in the OR to the body, it got contaminated, and it was useless. It was discarded and tossed just like that, dismissively into the bin. And I said, no. I was all dressed up in my scrubs and things. No, don't throw it away, I want it. In 179 operations, this is the only one that got contaminated, and I've got it. And you're seeing it today. And I use this as a teaching aid for my own students. And there's a little white part there. That's where you sew into the heart itself. Now, to get there, of course, you have to open up the body. And here is the experience. Because what happens is you have to put the heart on bypass so that, in fact, there's no blood that goes through the heart. But you have to keep the heart alive with a certain solution. And to do so, to preserve the heart muscle, you have to cool it down. Now, we're at 37 degrees. You have to cool the heart down to about 33 to 32 centigrade and give it food while you operate in the heart. When you've done everything, you warm it back up again, and the heart is like this, like a jelly. And one of the most thrilling things, apart from holding the heart in your hands, a living heart, one of the most thrilling things is to see the heart revert to a natural rhythm. We use 2 little paddles, we give it a small electric shock, and it goes from being this to, and it's magic. So if I had actually gone straight into my desired career, I would have missed all of that. But not only that, when I actually later on went into family medicine, I began then, only then, to realize what medicine was all about. And medicine today is, in fact, if you look about it, is integrative. Initially, medicine was really just looking at the body. And sometimes it looked at the mind. But it didn't take everything into account. And it didn't really take into account the spirit of the body. Here was I had held someone's heart in my hands. The spirit was within them. When you talk about mind and spirit, let me try something on you now. I almost certainly wager, I'm not a betting man, but I'm going to wager this as a little play, that until I mention what I'm going to mention right now, none of you are thinking about your right big toe. And now I've told you, think of your right big toe without moving it, without touching it, stroking it. You can begin to feel it. Can't you? Anyone feel their right big toe right now? But you didn't even know it was there a seconds ago. Did you? So there's something more than the body, there's something more than the mind, there's that spirit within you. Your neurotransmitters are going down, the messages are going down, and it's very powerful. And I truly believe that if you feel positive, if you're B positive, or any other blood group, you actually create a healthy, positive influence for your body, and that is part of your spirit. It enables us, by including the spirit, it enables us to be able to look at things in a different way and provide possible solutions for why people get sick and how they themselves in their inner self can get cured. It's not all about medicines, not all about investigations. It's about how we look at them globally, holistically. As a real person, every one of you here is unique and has special qualities. Not one of you the same. So, if you look at what you do, I would say I've been very fortunate in that doing something which you really, really enjoy, you do it well. And here's a picture of a brain in action just after a simple walk. So after a 20-minute walk, your brain lights up with scans. You can see the colors. When you learn to play a musical instrument, when you learn to play one, your brain lights up. Parts of your brain are recruited, which are not normally used. That's not just mind, that's the spirit. And that's probably not just hocus pocus, but that is all within us. But how many of us actually realize and think in those terms? So Ken Wilber actually was onto something when he talked about integrative medicine, because now we have that innovation of thought that's taken us through, and we have the spirit of transcend and include. One of the things that's very important in whatever you do, whether you're a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer or a judge, is be relentlessly helpful. So in fact, what is really, really important is to take from your life the experiences and savor and value them. Like the little baby coming out of a mother's womb, out of them being born, a little tuft of hair, little nails and little fingers. And what about the lady who has a dying husband and in fact comes to you and says as you're about to leave the house, "Doctor, are you okay?" and gives you a hug and an embrace like a mother. Those are precious moments, intrinsic. And so you should savor everything you want, even at 39,000 feet. Thank you so much.